for her to run through the slides and talk through the report that they just released. Hope you find it as interesting as I did. So over to you, Kate.
Thanks. Morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to come and speak today. I'm also probably the third choice speaker. We came a bit last minute, but I'll get cracking straight away because I have to go and pick my little boy up at 12 o'clock. So I am Kate Gilbert-Woolgrove, and I'm the head of comms, or co-head of comms, as we job share at City and Guilds. And I'm just going to share a deck with you. Where is it now? Oh, sorry, one sec.
Could we just ask if anyone's got their microphone on? Just to turn that off. Thank you. Obviously not you, Kate.
Not me. Can you guys see the slide deck? Can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's there.
Great. So we launched some research in mid-December, and it's called Youth Misspent. So we wanted to, the reason that we did the research is that we'd noticed that there was extremely high levels of youth unemployment compared to the national levels. And also some young people who are economically inactive. And we thought that was quite odd, considering that there were also 1.3 million open job vacancies. We really wanted to explore the reasons why. So obviously there's been a decade of austerity, which has been impacting education and wider public sector. So we wondered if those had been contributing factors. And we know that about a fifth of young people leave education every year without having achieved their 5 grade A star to C GCSEs, but actually that rises up quite significantly to 37% of those who receive free school meals. So there's a real link between poverty and educational attainment, which obviously is not brand new news, but we wanted to kind of look at those correlations. And also 45% of young people are currently in insecure work. So young people we've classed as 18 to 24-year-olds. And the UK has just entered a recession. So those in insecure work are obviously more at risk of becoming unemployed, which would be really problematic when there's already so many unemployed young people. So we worked with Opinion, the research agency, and we polled 5,000 18 to 24-year-olds about their lives. And what we found, which really surprised us, although we were expecting to find disadvantage, but the levels of disadvantage that young people are facing or have been facing are incredibly high. So we found that almost 20% of young people have been a young carer, which would suggest that the safety net is not there. So young people are having to do the caring themselves, which impacts their education, obviously, and their ability to be able to work. We found that 10% of young people had been in the care system, and that was across all social strata. We found that 9% of young men had been in prison already, which we thought was really shocking at such a young age. 28% told us that their highest level of qualification was a level 2, which is equivalent to a GCSE or below. So obviously that's really putting them on the back foot straight away as they enter the labour market. We found that 14% had significant physical and mental health issues, and that we'd classified as being so severe that they had been unable to attend education or work at some point, which we also thought was incredibly high. And that 38% had been in receipt of free school meals, which obviously is a key indicator of poverty. And again, we thought that was incredibly high. Disadvantaged young people were the most likely to tell us that they felt locked out of the labour market, to currently be unemployed, and to have lower levels of educational attainment. So disadvantages being baked in was the key message there. I can't see anybody, by the way, so if you have to holler if you've got a question. Oh, last. Oh, that's fine. So we found that young people were generally low in confidence and felt that they were being left behind in the labour market. So you can see from the data here that 16% were currently out of work, and that meant economically inactive or unemployed. And that kind of correlates to about 859,000 young people. So when you think about the fact there's 1.4 million job vacancies, why are those young people not taking up those jobs or not able to take up those jobs? Only 26% felt that government was doing enough to support young people into work, and only 33% felt that employers were doing enough to support young people into work. So there's a real story there about them feeling left behind and not supported properly. 23% felt they had the right skills to progress in their career. 30% believed that they would never be able to meet their career ambitions, which is really depressing when you should be young and hopeful. And 43% believed that their education had not equipped them with the correct skills to be able to progress in the labour market. It's kind of a bit of a depressing story. I'm not clicking through very well, excuse me. Oh, here we go. They also told us that 64%, so 2/3, felt like it's not easy for young people to get a job these days. Only 17% are currently doing a job that they actually want to be doing. 29% have struggled to even get an interview, and 9% of young people who are not currently working, so either unemployed or in education or economically inactive, believe that they will never be able to start working, which is quite depressing statistic also. And disadvantaged young people were significantly more likely to aspire to careers in lower paid, what we call more humble jobs. Women were much more likely to be working in or aspiring to work in careers in lower paid sectors, and were already earning significantly less than men, even at this very early stage in their careers. And young women were significantly more likely than young men to believe that they're not being supported into the workplace by employers and government. So we found there were clear, so these are not my slides, this is from the economic modelers that we worked with on the research. So they were telling us that there were clear mismatches between the kinds of jobs available and the career and young people's career aspirations. So this really tells a tale of the fact that careers advice and guidance is not very good in the UK at the moment, which I think is a kind of open secret, or maybe a fact. But we found that 15% wanted to work in arts, entertainment and recreation, versus actually only 2% of jobs being available. So we've just put some of the starkest ones on here, but there are mismatches across all industries. And just 2% of young people interviewed wanted to work in manufacturing versus 8% of the jobs being in that sector. We found that there are differences between more advantaged and less advantaged young people and their career choices. So this basically says that in the higher paid careers, ABC1 is what is probably upper and middle class, you would say. So the young people in this category were more likely to be picking higher paid careers and than young people who'd grown up in less advantaged backgrounds. Oops. And also gender was a factor. So we found that young women were much more likely than young men to aspire to be working in or already be working in careers which were much lower paid than young men. And it's just the typical gender skew of men's jobs and women's jobs that are perceived to be. So something around breaking down those gender barriers. Oops. Keep on moving this box around. And young people's salary aspirations were basically quite unrealistic. So they were thinking that they were going to be earning above the national average, 50% of them within the next 5 years, but actually only 21% of young people of working adults are earning more than £30,000 a year. And then again, this shows that their aspirations for salaries are quite different depending on what their gender is and what their social class is. So just on to my final slide now around our recommendations from the report. So I actually just padded this out and put some more of our employer ones in, because obviously you guys are a group of employers. So our recommendations for employers were that we feel like employers need to engage more with the skills system and existing government initiatives to provide more opportunities and progression for young people, and also to fill critical skill shortages. So that can be things like apprenticeships, boot camps, T-levels. However, we're really mindful of the fact that the system often isn't working for employers either, and there's a lot of red tape. Maybe the structures that have been set up are not the correct ones for employers. They're difficult to engage with. So I think a really important part here is, oops, flip to go back up the slide. Excuse me. To do that. Sorry. So it's around campaigning for change. So government don't always get it right, and the system has kind of grown over time. So a real core piece for employers is saying what doesn't work and what they think should happen in the future. And we've also been campaigning recently about potentially flexing the apprenticeship levy so that the funds can be spent more broadly on different kinds of interventions. We also a recommendation, and just to say, the recommendations were written using what young people had asked for in the report, as well as using the expertise of our experts within the business. So to make it easier for young people to access and progress in their careers, especially the more disadvantaged and underrepresented groups. And by that, we were talking about things like recruiting on aptitude, rather than just looking at people's qualifications and experience. And a lot of young people said that they had been really impacted by the pandemic, so their qualification had been worse, or they had just not been able to access work. They hadn't been able to do Saturday jobs, weekend jobs. So they're coming into the labour market really disadvantaged compared to other young people. And obviously, more disadvantaged and underrepresented groups face even greater barriers into the workplace. And third one is providing more work experience, paid internships or training opportunities, and working better with education to support the careers advice and guidance in schools and raise awareness of the broader range of careers on offer. And there's something there around those points about targeting schools with disadvantage, maybe looking at getting young women into traditionally more male jobs. And then we also put some recommendations in here for government and educators, but actually I think probably I won't go through those. So I'd like to open the floor up to your questions. Did that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. It was really interesting. If anyone does have questions, please just jump in or put your hand up, and if there is a bit of silence, then okay, Hannah, straight away.
Hi, yeah. You might have covered this already, so apologies if I've missed it, but one of the first slides you showed with those statistics around kind of rates of young people who are carers, young people who have mental health issues. Was that survey taken from young people at random, or was it targeted at, so that's just like a complete cross section of young people?
So it's representative data of young people in the UK today. So we work with Opinium, who are obviously a big polling agency, and so they worked with us to ensure the data was representative. So yeah, really staggeringly high figures. We also worked with some organised, if you look, I'll send you guys a link to the report afterwards, but Young Carers Trust were one of the organisations we worked with, and they agreed that data looked about correct. So it's really high.
Yeah, no, well, that's why I asked. It looked staggeringly high, some of those. So I
Yeah.
thought you might have kind of targeted the sample, but no, yeah, that's
No,
really
not at
shocking.
all. Yeah, really shocking. And also we were really surprised at the level of young people who receive free school meals. But obviously that's at some point within their full education. So sometimes you receive it and sometimes you do not receive it. So also we think that probably is correct.
Julia.
Hi, thanks so much. That was really informative. Just a question about the unemployment stat that you shared. I think it was 869,000.
Yes.
That's a bit higher than the NEET stat, the official NEET stat. What's the difference between those two figures?
So we've because we polled the young people ourselves. So and again, representative sample working with Opinion. So yeah, maybe the data is well. Obviously there could be slight inaccuracies in the data. It's relatively close to what the government says if you wrap in the NEET figures. But that's what those young people are identifying as either being unemployed or so. Yeah, it was slightly higher. I'd say probably about 3% overall higher than the government statistics. But it's possible also that the government statistics aren't quite capturing everything, because that is also an estimation. Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about hidden NEETs, don't they? So I wonder if that's just including those. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, just trying to work out who was first. It's not Michelle.
Hi, thank you. Just really interesting again with the figures, because we in Shropshire deliver a number of employability programs, but one of them is a youth hub for young people aged 16 to 24 who are similar to Step Up but complement Step Up. So we work with those further away, perhaps a bit from the job market, and do a lot of mental health support and things for those, which is funded by the DWP. Funding is due to end at the end of May, and I was in a contract meeting with the contractor from the DWP on Monday, and she was saying, oh, we don't need this anymore because we're seeing a massive reduction in youth unemployment. So what conversations are you having with the DWP? Because again, Step Up is due to end in September, so there's going to be a massive gap there. And I know that on the ground, people, mental health services, primary care services are really concerned about this, but how are we getting to the DWP, I suppose, to tell them that this need is ongoing?
So I think somebody from the DWP actually attended our launch events. We had a virtual launch event, which we always do for City and Guilds research pieces. They were definitely sent the information. So we have an engagement team, and they definitely sent the information into the DWP. But other than that, I mean, we would campaign. We're going to campaign on it throughout the year. So we'll have all invited to come to our things. So we're having a different monthly theme each month for the rest of the year. So some of them will be focusing on particular industries, and some will be focusing on particular social issues. So we definitely will do some around young carers, mental health, poverty, and we'll target those organisations with that information. But I mean, we're really happy to help to work with other people. We have a foundation, and they're purely focused on supporting people who have barriers into the workplace of all ages. So there are opportunities to collaborate with other organisations if you're interested and you've got ideas.
Thank you.
Stuart.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'd just kind of echo the things that have been said already. And I work for Roots to Work, which is an arm's length body of North Lanarkshire Council. I know that the schools in North Lanarkshire Council are looking at alternative curriculum, and I noticed in the report, it's talking about how a number of young people said that the school didn't prepare them for real life, and I'd echo that for a lot of young people that have significant barriers. We're kind of looking at a project. There's a level of this in young people that don't secure positive destinations from school, and it's about 250 people in North Lanarkshire, but that goes to 1,000 people after 6 months. So there are young people that are engaging positive destinations, but something's going wrong in that 6-month period, of whether it's securing employment and not sustaining it, of going to college and not sustaining it. So we're trying to focus a pilot initiative on a school in Coatbridge. So it'd be interesting to kind of feedback on how that's worked or not. And I just think there's opportunities coming out of Best Start Brighter Futures, and it's acknowledging that these issues don't happen for young people aged between 18 and 24. They happen when they're born into poverty and inequality, and we have to look at how we can coordinate services better with early education, nurseries, etc. And how we deliver the services. Just as my last point, that I previously worked for a college for 20 years, and some young people really benefited from the kind of online hybrid delivery, and some young people hated it. But we've kind of learned a lot of lessons, and we've got to kind of take it forward. That we still have to look at alternative ways, that we don't talk about the curriculum. We talked about that idea of lived experience that you talk about in your report, Kate.
Yes, we had a speaker from the young carers, and she had to miss loads of her education because her mum suffered with extremely severe mental health problems. And she was given an opportunity. She said the same thing. She said, look at all the great skills that a young carer has, that they're able to solve problems, and that they can deal with crises, but actually it might not look good on paper. So yeah, exactly what you're saying, I think, Stuart, just you need to give people a chance.
And as I said, it is working a lot with head teachers who have their own budget considerations, but they're starting, I think a few of the kind of more ones with more foresight are starting to, it's not just about where they are in the league table, it's about, it's about real lives and looking at the individuals within that school environment that are really struggling and haven't secured positive destinations. Thanks.
Thank you, Stuart. Really interesting. Samantha?
Hiya. So we delivered the education training employment contract, working with 18 plus males in probation who are on a court order or license. It's His Majesty's Prison Probation Service that commissioned us to do that. But I might have missed it on your sampling, but was criminal background, unspent convictions part of the actual polling?
Yes, so we didn't filter on that, but we asked if they'd ever been in the prison system. So overall it was, I think, 3 or 4%, but for young men it was 9% of young men who replied had been in the prison system at some point in their lives already.
I mean experience,
so incredibly high.
I mean, they may not have been in prison, but they may have been within the probation system and youth justice. But when you're speaking to individuals, a lot of the people we work with don't have formal qualifications, have had unstable education backgrounds, they may have dropped out of school, they may have gone to alternative schooling provision. But then when they're wanting to go into, they're actually wanting to engage with training providers and sort of colleges, there's a lot of, I don't know whether it's to do with the funding changes recently, but there's a lot of like minimum criteria that they've got to have a level 2 to be able to engage on the course. So that again is another barrier.
Yes. So we actually do quite a lot of work in prisons with city and guilds. And we campaigned actually recently, and I think maybe it hasn't been enacted yet, but will be enacted, that there will be young prisoners will be allowed to take apprenticeships within prison. So we're doing some pilots at the moment to allow people to do short courses so they can come out and get a job on the railways, for example, is one of the ones we're doing at the moment. But yes, you're correct. It has been put into it has been put as a stipulation now that you can't do an apprenticeship if you haven't got your level 2. And we also campaigned against that and said that it was unnecessary barriers. It's stopping people, the very people who should be able to do an apprenticeship. So people from a more disadvantaged background from actually accessing those interventions.
Okay, it's good that it's been highlighted because it is a big barrier, and we're excluding people that have already had barriers sort of in their younger lives as well. So it's good that it's on the agenda. Thank you.
But I don't know, but I'm not sure if it will get overturned at the moment. So the more voices that can say it's not correct is better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We've got about 5 minutes left in the scheduled meeting. So does anyone else have any other further questions? or
So I've
anything
just say I've put a link to the research report in the chat if you guys want to have a read of the fuller report. And I love lots of imagery because I hate big blocks of text, so it's quite an easy read, I think. And also, if you're interested to attend, so we'll be having podcasts and webinars and all kinds of things throughout the year on various different topics. And I do think prisons is going to be one as well, actually, Samantha. I'm happy to, if you pass the details to me, I'll send you guys information about the fuller schedule that we've got for the rest of the year. And thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. So useful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So I think